It was a quiet afternoon at a small diner on a sleepy street. The soft hum of conversation and the clinking of coffee mugs filled the air as customers enjoyed their meals. The light from the late afternoon sun filtered through the windows, casting a warm glow over the simple but cozy interior. It felt like any other day, but for Emily, the waitress working her shift, this afternoon would be different, though she had no idea yet. At a corner booth, an older man sat alone, finishing his meal. His name was Steven Seagal, though Emily didn't recognize him. He wasn't drawing attention, not the way other famous faces often did. He simply ate, and quietly observed the bustling diner around him. There was something calming about his presence, something peaceful that made the world seem a little slower. When he finished, he left a $5 tip on the table, a gesture that was neither large nor small, but somehow it caught Emily's attention. She picked up the bill, noticing the simplicity of it. No extravagant gesture, no grand show, just a small, quiet act. And yet, for some reason, it felt like more than just a tip. As she walked past him to clear his table, she couldn't help but wonder, was this man truly just like any other customer, or was there something deeper beneath the surface? She didn't know it yet, but Steven was about to test her in a way she had never expected. And what she would learn from this $5 tip would change everything she thought she knew about kindness. Emily couldn't stop thinking about the $5 tip Steven Seagal had left behind. It wasn't the amount, but something about it intrigued her. There was a sense of calm that came from the way he left it. No drama, no grand gestures. She had seen many famous faces come through the diner over the years, and they all had one thing in common: the need to be seen, to be admired. But Steven, he was different. It made her wonder, who was this man really? As the diner continued to buzz with activity, Emily tried to focus on her work, but the moment replayed in her mind again and again. She had to know more. What kind of man would leave a small tip without any fanfare? Was it a test? Or simply the way he was? Emily was a woman who didn't let things slide easily. She decided she was going to find out. The chance came sooner than expected. A few days later, Steven returned to the diner, and this time, Emily wasn't going to let the opportunity pass by. She watched him sit down, his calm demeanor unchanged, just as if nothing had happened. He ordered his usual, and Emily approached him with the bill. She knew what she had to do. "Excuse me, sir," she said as she gently placed the bill on the table, trying to keep her voice steady. "I noticed something the last time you were here. You left a $5 tip, which is generous, but most people would leave more, especially someone like you. I just wanted to know if there was any particular reason for it." Steven looked up at her, his gaze calm, almost as if he had been expecting the question. He didn't seem rattled. "It's not about the money," he said slowly, his voice even and steady. "It's about the intention behind it. It's easy to give when you're expecting something in return. But to give when there's nothing to gain, that's what matters." Emily was taken aback. It wasn't the answer she expected. For a moment she was unsure of how to respond. She had always thought generosity was about the amount, not the meaning behind it. She had lived her life giving what she could when she could. But now, Steven was challenging everything she thought she knew. "What do you mean by that?" Emily asked, genuinely curious now. Steven smiled faintly, leaning back in his seat. "What I mean is that true generosity comes from within. It's not about showing off or getting attention for being generous. It's about doing the right thing when no one's watching, giving to others without expecting anything in return. The world would be a much better place if more people lived that way." Emily stood there for a moment, letting the words sink in. Her eyes scanned his calm face, the same face she had seen in movies, but this wasn't the action hero from the screen. This was a man who lived by his own principles, a man who didn't need the applause or validation. He simply acted from a place of integrity. As she walked away, she couldn't help but wonder, was he right? Could she live like that? Could she give without expecting anything in return, especially when it came to her own dreams? Could her desire for success and recognition be getting in the way of truly living with purpose? The more she thought about it, the more she realized how much Steven's words had affected her. For years, she had worked in the diner, barely scraping by, always waiting for the right time to pursue her passion for baking. She was afraid of failure, afraid of judgment, afraid that the dream she had would never come true. But Steven's simple message had made her question that fear. The fear of failure, the fear of not being good enough. Was that what had been holding her back all these years? Was she too focused on seeking approval and validation to ever make her dream a reality? That night, Emily stayed up late, reflecting on what Steven had said. His calmness, his lack of need for recognition, his generosity. It was a different way of living, one she had never considered. She had always thought that to succeed, she needed to push and fight for recognition. But maybe that wasn't the answer. Maybe, like Steven, she needed to act from a place of calm and generosity, and let everything else follow. The next morning, she made a decision. She wasn't going to wait anymore. She wasn't going to let fear control her. She was going to open the bakery she had always dreamed of, regardless of the risks. She was going to make the first step toward her future, living with calmness, respect, and generosity, just as Steven had shown her. Emily's life was about to change, and it all started with a $5 tip and a man who had nothing to prove. Do you think Emily made the right decision? What's stopping you from following your dreams? Comment below and share your thoughts. Emily's mind raced as she lay awake that night. Steven's words echoed in her thoughts. True generosity comes from within. It's not about showing off or getting attention. It's about doing the right thing when no one's watching. She had worked in the diner for years, her hands calloused from carrying trays, her legs sore from standing on her feet all day. She was grateful for the steady paycheck, but deep down, she knew this wasn't her dream. Her passion for baking had always been strong. She had spent countless hours perfecting recipes at home, imagining the day she could open her own bakery. But there was always a reason to delay: the fear of failure, the doubt in her ability, the belief that she wasn't ready. But now, after Steven's visit, she couldn't ignore the stirring inside her. His message had awakened something in her, something that had been buried under layers of fear and insecurity. Emily realized that for far too long, she had been waiting for the right moment to pursue her passion. She had told herself that one day, things would align, and everything would fall into place. But the truth was, she had never taken action. She had been too afraid of what people might think, too worried about failing. Her conversation with Steven had made her confront her own hesitation. What was she waiting for? He didn't have to prove himself to anyone. He didn't care about being admired. His strength came from within, from acting with intention and generosity. Could she do that? Could she live her life with calmness and generosity, no matter the outcome? The next day at work, Emily was quieter than usual. As she cleared plates and served coffee, her thoughts were focused elsewhere. She no longer wanted to just exist in this cycle of routine. She wanted to create something meaningful. She wanted to build something with her own hands, a place where people could come together, enjoy food, and feel welcome, just as she had always imagined. But there was one thing she had to confront first: fear. She sat down in the back of the diner during her lunch break, her hands shaking as she pulled out a pen and some paper. She wrote down the idea she had been too scared to bring to life. A bakery, her bakery. A place where she could share her love of baking with others. A place where she could pour her heart into the food, making each item with care and purpose. It was a dream she had kept to herself for years, but now it felt more real than ever before. The more she thought about it, the more excited she became. She would need to figure out the logistics, the location, the funding, the permits, but none of that mattered right now. What mattered was that she was finally taking the first step. She was no longer waiting for the right moment. The moment had arrived, and it was time to act. The fear still lingered in her chest, but it wasn't as overwhelming as it had been before. She felt a strange sense of calmness settle over her, as if a weight had been lifted. Steven's words had given her the clarity she needed. She wasn't doing this for anyone's approval. She was doing it for herself, to live with intention, to follow her passion, and to create something meaningful that could make a difference in her own life and the lives of others. That evening, as Emily finished her shift, she felt a surge of excitement. She walked home with her head held high, knowing that tomorrow would be different. She was ready to make her dream a reality. She spent the next few weeks researching how to start her bakery. She looked into local business regulations, found a small storefront in a quiet neighborhood that was for rent, and started reaching out to friends for advice. It was overwhelming at first. The amount of planning and preparation it would take seemed like a mountain to climb. But Emily knew that if she didn't start now, she might never start at all. One night, after spending hours writing out business plans and calculating expenses, she looked up from her desk and smiled. She had done it. She had taken the first step, And although there was still so much more to do, Emily knew that she had finally stepped onto the path she had always wanted to walk. The next morning, she walked into the diner, her heart racing. She was determined to tell her boss that she was leaving, that she was going to open her bakery. She had no guarantees, no promises that it would succeed, but for the first time, she didn't need them. She knew that this was the right thing to do, and no matter what happened, it would be worth it. Emily's decision had been made. Her dream was now in motion, and she was about to face the challenges that would test her resolve. But little did she know, this was just the beginning of a much bigger journey. After weeks of planning, organizing, and researching, the day finally came when Emily walked into her boss's office at the diner. Her heart pounded in her chest as she stood there, feeling the weight of the decision she was about to make. She had been working at the diner for over 4 years. It was a place she had come to rely on, a steady job with reliable pay, but it wasn't her dream. It wasn't what she had always wanted to do. "Hey, Emily, what's up?" her boss asked, looking up from his paperwork. Taking a deep breath, Emily squared her shoulders and forced herself to look him in the eye. "I need to talk to you," she began, her voice a little shaky but firm. "I've decided to quit my job here." Her boss raised an eyebrow, surprised. "Quit? But you've been here for years, Emily. Everything okay?" Emily nodded, the decision weighing on her as she spoke. "I've decided I'm going to start my own bakery. I've always wanted to do it, and now I'm taking the leap. I don't know what's ahead, but I'm ready to take the risk." Her boss was silent for a moment, processing the news. "Wow, that's a big step, Emily," he said. "I'm proud of you for taking the plunge. But are you sure? It's not easy, especially with no guarantees." Emily smiled, though she felt a knot in her stomach. "I'm sure. It's time to stop waiting for the right moment. I'm just going to make it happen." Her boss shook his head. "Well, I guess you've made up your mind. I can't stop you, but I wish you the best of luck." As Emily left his office, her pulse quickened. She had done it. She had officially quit her job at the diner. There was no turning back now. It was a leap of faith, and although she was scared, there was a sense of exhilaration that filled her. For the first time, she was living her truth. She was no longer hiding behind fear. She was taking control of her life. The next few weeks were a blur of preparation. Emily found a small, charming space in a neighborhood she thought would be perfect for her bakery. It was a little more than she had budgeted for, but it had the right kind of warmth, the kind of place she envisioned when she thought about where people would gather to enjoy delicious pastries and coffee. She poured all of her savings into securing the lease, trusting that this would be her path forward. She spent days cleaning and organizing, getting everything ready for the grand opening. There were moments of doubt, times when the weight of what she was doing seemed too heavy. Would anyone show up? What if it failed? The questions seemed endless, but she couldn't let them stop her. She thought back to what Steven had told her. True generosity comes from within. It's about doing the right thing when no one's watching. Emily knew that the bakery wasn't just about selling food. It was about creating an atmosphere, a space that made people feel seen, valued, and appreciated. And she knew she had to take this step to create it. Even if she wasn't certain what the future held, she had to trust herself. The day of the opening arrived, and Emily stood in front of the door to the bakery, her hands shaking as she unlocked it. She had worked tirelessly over the past few weeks, staying up late baking, preparing the store, and getting everything ready. But now she was about to face the reality, the fear, the uncertainty, the challenge of making this dream come true. The bell above the door jingled as she entered the small bakery, her eyes scanning the space. She smiled to herself. It was beautiful. It was exactly what she had hoped for. Everything was ready. She just had to wait for the customers to come. As the hours passed, Emily began to feel the weight of it all. A few people walked by, but no one came in. She watched the clock tick away. It was getting close to closing time, and Emily felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. Was this it? Was her dream failing before it even began? Just as she was about to give in to the self-doubt, the door opened and a woman walked in. Emily's heart skipped a beat. The woman smiled, taking in the cozy atmosphere of the bakery. "I've been meaning to stop by," she said. "It looks wonderful in here. I'll have one of those croissants, please." The words sent a rush of relief through Emily. One customer who believed in her. Emily handed over the croissant with a smile, and that was the beginning. Slowly but surely, people started coming in. One by one, they sat down to enjoy her pastries, and with each person who entered, Emily's belief in herself grew stronger. As the day came to an end, Emily stood behind the counter, looking at the nearly empty bakery. She had made it. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and it was just the beginning. Emily knew this was just the start of her journey. The road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but she had taken the first step, and that was enough. As the days passed, Emily found herself caught between two worlds. There were moments when everything seemed to be falling into place, like when her first regular customer came in, a friendly woman who had been returning every day since the opening. Emily couldn't help but smile each time she handed over her freshly baked pastries. The woman's enthusiasm was contagious, and soon, more people began trickling in, curious about the new bakery in the neighborhood. But with each new visitor came a wave of new doubts. What if it was just a passing interest? What if the novelty wore off and the customers stopped coming? Emily had always heard that the first few months were critical for any small business, and right now, she was walking a tightrope. Every sale, every compliment from a customer gave her hope, but it also kept her on edge. Would it last? She began to spend long hours at the bakery, opening early to prep and staying late to clean up. Her passion kept her moving forward, but the fatigue was starting to take its toll. As much as she loved the bakery, there were moments when she felt overwhelmed by the pressure. Was she making enough money to stay afloat? Could she keep up this pace? The worries mounted even as the bakery began to grow in popularity. One afternoon, Emily was pulling a tray of cinnamon rolls out of the oven when she noticed a familiar face at the door. It was Steven Seagal. He had returned. Her heart skipped a beat as he walked in, his calm, steady gaze scanning the bakery. He smiled faintly, his eyes meeting hers as he approached the counter. Emily, startled at first, quickly recovered, trying to hide the surprise that had flitted across her face. "I see you've done well," he said, his voice as calm as ever. "It's beautiful in here. I'm glad you followed through on your dream." Emily smiled, still in awe that he had returned. "It's been a tough journey," she admitted, wiping her hands on her apron. "Some days I'm not sure if I'm doing enough, but I just keep going." Steven nodded, looking around the bakery with a sense of quiet approval. "You've built something special here. The key is consistency. Stay true to your intentions and don't be distracted by the ups and downs. People can feel authenticity. That's what keeps them coming back." His words were like a balm to her weary soul. She had been so focused on the day-to-day struggles that she hadn't paused to appreciate how far she had come. The bakery was still small, but it had a unique charm, a warmth that couldn't be replicated by larger chains. She realized that this was exactly what she wanted, to create a space where people could come and feel like they were part of something special. As she handed him a coffee and a pastry, Steven paused for a moment, his gaze lingering on her. "Keep going," he said. "You're on the right path. And don't let the pressure of the world make you doubt yourself. Success isn't always immediate, but it's about being true to what you believe in." That day, Steven left a generous tip, just as he had done the first time. As he walked out the door, Emily stood there for a moment, watching him go. She knew he was right. Success wasn't about instant gratification. It was about building something real, something meaningful. And she had already done that. The next few weeks brought more customers and more compliments. People started leaving reviews online, praising the quality of her pastries and the welcoming atmosphere of the bakery. Slowly but surely word spread. Emily's dream was becoming a reality. But as the bakery grew, so did the challenges. There were still moments of doubt. Would this success last? Was she making enough to cover expenses? Could she ever truly be free of the worry that she might fail? Despite the growing customer base, Emily found herself struggling to balance the joy of her success with the fear of it slipping away. But Steven's words kept echoing in her mind. Stay true to your intentions. The rest, she realized, would follow. One afternoon, after closing the shop, Emily sat down with a notebook and started writing. She wrote about her journey, the ups and downs, the fear and the excitement. She wrote about the moments of self-doubt and the moments of triumph. And as she wrote, she realized something important: she had already succeeded. No matter what happened next, she had created something that mattered. She had turned her dream into something tangible. That was success. Emily was finally seeing the results of her hard work. But she knew the road ahead would be filled with both challenges and rewards. And she was ready for it all. What's the biggest challenge you've faced while pursuing your dream? Share your story in the comments below. Your journey could inspire someone else to keep going. The weeks following Steven's last visit felt like a whirlwind for Emily. The bakery was steadily growing, attracting more and more customers every day. Word of mouth had worked wonders, and online reviews were pouring in, each one praising the quality of her pastries and the charm of her little shop. People had started to talk about the cozy corner bakery in town, the one where you could get the best croissants and freshly brewed coffee. For Emily, it was a dream come true, but it was also a new set of challenges. She was busier than ever, and the pressure was starting to feel like a weight on her shoulders. She found herself waking up early every day, rushing to prepare for the day's orders, and staying late to clean up. There were moments when she felt overwhelmed, unsure if she could continue at this pace. But through it all, one thought kept her grounded: the reason she started this journey in the first place, to create something meaningful. To live with intention, as Steven had told her. One afternoon, while Emily was arranging pastries in the display case, a familiar face walked through the door. It was Steven again. This time, he wasn't alone. He was accompanied by a man in a suit, who appeared to be in his mid-40s, carrying a briefcase. Steven smiled at her when he walked in, and Emily's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't seen him in weeks, and she felt a strange mix of surprise and gratitude flood her. "Well, it looks like you've really built something here," Steven said, looking around the bakery with approval in his eyes. "I see it's doing well." Emily smiled nervously. "I can't believe how much it's grown," she said. "It's a lot of work, but I'm so glad I did it. It feels like a dream." Steven nodded. "You've done more than just open a bakery, Emily. You've created a community, and that's what really matters." The man in the suit, who had been silent up until now, stepped forward, offering his hand to Emily. "I'm sorry to interrupt," he said, his tone polite but businesslike, "but I'm with the local Chamber of Commerce. I've been hearing a lot of great things about this place, and I wanted to introduce myself. We're interested in offering you a business grant to help with expansion." Emily's eyes widened. She hadn't expected anything like this, a grant, for her little bakery. She felt a sense of disbelief settle in. It felt like the universe was rewarding her for taking the leap. She glanced at Steven, who gave her a knowing smile. "We've been watching your success from afar," the man continued, "and we believe your bakery has the potential to grow even further. If you're interested, we'd like to help you expand your business. We can assist with funding, marketing, and even finding additional locations. We see a lot of promise here." Emily was speechless. This wasn't just a small win, it was a huge opportunity. But it also raised a new set of questions. Was she ready to take the business to the next level? Could she handle the responsibility that would come with expansion? It felt like a dream, but at the same time, it felt like everything was happening so fast. "Thank you," Emily said, her voice a little shaky. "I'm honored by your offer. I've worked so hard for this, but I need to think it through." "It's a big step," the man smiled, understanding. "Take your time. We're here to support you, no pressure. We just believe in what you're doing." As the man left the bakery, Steven turned to Emily. "What do you think?" he asked, his tone gentle but filled with the kind of wisdom that came from experience. Emily stared after the man, still processing everything. "I don't know. It's a huge opportunity, but I'm scared. What if I can't handle it? What if I mess up?" Steven placed a hand on her shoulder, his eyes locking with hers. "Fear is natural," he said, his voice calm. "But you've already proven to yourself that you have what it takes. The key is to stay true to your purpose. What is your intention with this business? Is it to grow for the sake of growth, or is it to create something that serves people, something that stays true to who you are?" Emily thought about it for a moment, her mind racing. She realized that the true purpose of her bakery wasn't just about making money or becoming famous. It was about creating a space that felt warm and inviting, a place where people could feel at home, no matter their background. She wanted to build something that mattered, something that brought joy to the community. I think I'm ready," she said quietly, her voice filled with newfound conviction. "I've built this from the ground up, and I believe in it. I believe in what it stands for. I can't let fear hold me back now." Steven smiled, his eyes filled with approval. "That's the spirit, Emily. You're on the right path. Keep your intentions clear, and everything else will follow." Emily knew that this was a turning point. The bakery was no longer just a dream, it was a thriving reality. But with this new opportunity came new challenges. The road ahead would be filled with tough decisions, but Emily was ready to take the next step. The days following Steven's visit were a whirlwind of excitement and uncertainty. Emily spent countless hours deliberating the business grant offer. The possibilities were endless, but so were the risks. The pressure mounted, and she found herself questioning whether she was truly ready for this new chapter. Could she really take her small, intimate bakery and turn it into something larger? Something that could impact the community even more? Despite her worries, Emily kept coming back to what Steven had said to her: true generosity comes from within. It's about doing the right thing when no one's watching. Those words had been the foundation of her journey. They had been her guiding light through every step she had taken. So Emily decided to take the leap not just for herself, but for everyone who had supported her along the way. She wasn't going to let fear stop her from reaching her fullest potential. With careful planning and unwavering resolve, Emily accepted the business grant. She expanded her bakery, but she did so in a way that stayed true to her values. She focused on what made her bakery unique: its warmth, its authenticity, and the sense of community it created. Months later, Emily stood outside her bakery one morning, watching as customers filled the newly expanded space. It was bustling, just like she had always dreamed, but it wasn't the scale of the success that moved her. It was the realization that she had done it without sacrificing who she was. She had stayed grounded in her purpose, even when the pressures of growth had threatened to overwhelm her. Steven's words had come full circle for her. She hadn't just created a business. She had created a space where people could come together, enjoy good food, and feel at home. She had given people a place to feel seen, valued, and appreciated, just as she had always wanted. It wasn't about the money or the fame. It was about making a difference, no matter how small it seemed. That afternoon, Steven walked into the bakery again, a warm smile on his face as he looked around at the new space. Emily was busy behind the counter, but when she saw him, she couldn't help but feel a wave of gratitude wash over her. He had believed in her when she didn't believe in herself. He had shown her that the true strength of a person comes from within, and that strength is built on living with generosity, kindness, and authenticity. "You've done well," Steven said, his voice calm but filled with pride. "I'm proud of you." Emily smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without your advice. You taught me that living with intention is the key to everything. I've built something real here, something that matters." Steven placed his hand on the counter, giving her a gentle nod. "That's the spirit. It's not about the size of your business. It's about the size of your heart, your ability to give, and the impact you make on others. Keep doing what you're doing, Emily. The world needs more of that." As Steven left, Emily stood there for a moment, reflecting on everything she had been through. She had taken risks, faced fear, and built something from scratch. And in doing so, she had learned that true success isn't about chasing recognition or accolades. It's about staying true to who you are, being kind, and living with generosity. It's about showing up for yourself and for others, even when the road ahead seems uncertain. For Emily, the bakery wasn't just a business. It was a testament to her journey, to the lessons she had learned, and to the people who had supported her along the way. And she knew that no matter what came next, she would continue to live with the same calm, kindness, and generosity that had guided her from the very beginning. Emily had not only built a business, she had built a legacy of kindness, courage, and living with purpose. And that was the greatest success of all. What's one lesson that has changed your perspective on life? Share it in the comments below. Your insight might just inspire someone else to take that first step toward their own dream.